Paul Mauro is now on set here in New York and joins us. He's also an attorney and a Fox News contributor. Paul, great to have you here. So apparently Dr. Fauci said in these texts, as Congress continues to dig through them, that this second COVID dose could theoretically be associated with miscarriage in the first trimester of pregnancy, but was putting out different information publicly. Where do you go with this legally?
Well, first of all, everybody's thinking criminally, civilly. This is a bit of a minefield for him because women who suffered, in fact, that kind of a miscarriage are going to be thinking lawsuit immediately. Secondly, however, let's understand what's going on here. He took the fifth in a federal proceeding in Congress, and he is theoretically protected by the fact that Joe Biden gave him that pardon. I think while he has been referred technically by the Senate because of contempt of Congress, is their theory here, I actually don't think that's going to hold up. And in fact, the fact that Florida, Louisiana, Alabama, certain other states have reportedly decided that they may be looking at prosecuting him is actually his best argument. The fact that the states are looking at him supports his argument that I took the fifth to avoid self-incrimination because not federally, state-wise, I may be prosecuted. So that gives him something of an out. He's allowed to do that. Here's where I think we should be going on this referral. Give the whole thing to Ginny Pirro. She's the attorney for D.C., U.S. attorney. Convene a grand jury. Now, you have a grand jury together. You subpoena him in. Give him immunity. I know everybody wants to see him in jail and everything else. Forget revenge. More important is for this nation to understand what the hell happened to us. Give him immunity. He can't take the fifth in that proceeding. If he does, he's de facto in contempt. Then he goes to jail, period, end of story. Give him immunity, put him in the grand jury, and then if I could just close the loop, Sandra, don't stop there. Get everybody who was supposedly part of this pardon, who from what I see from the history, Joe Biden wasn't even a party to. Same thing. Get them in, give immunity to who you have to, and let's understand how he got this pardon, why he did what he did, so that it can never happen again, and so that we can concretize the narrative that China almost certainly released this thing from a lab, and we were sold this bill of good about bat soup.
I mean, from a scientific standpoint, Paul, it would be great to find out exactly what people believe, truly believe about where this virus came from so that it can be prevented in the future. But I think there are a lot of people who say, hey, if you're throwing around immunity for people who are misleading the American people, potentially put people in harm's way, that's not something that they're willing to buy into.
That's right. I think it's going to be a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow, particularly Fauci. A lot of the other characters involved, nobody's ever heard of. And so, you know, okay, they got immunity, get them to tell the truth. I think people can probably live with that. You're not going to have to give it to everybody, by the way. Once you get one or two talking, then they all start to fold because they don't know what's being said about them. They don't know if they're being blamed. And this is how you build criminal cases. You give the key people immunity, some kind of a deal. I mean, let me put it in sort of gangster terms. They got Sammy the Bull, who committed more homicides than Gotti, but they gave him a deal to testify against Gotti because that's the guy that they wanted. Right. Get these people into a federal grand jury, and unfortunately, and I know it's a bitter pill, but if you give Fauci immunity, he has to tell us the truth. And we want that as a nation, because at this point, he's 85. He's going to be somebody who, in my estimation, his reputation is never going to recover. We're now starting to see the exploitation of the phone, which I hope they have the right people exploiting that phone. I did 25 years of this kind of stuff. And my career grew up with the exploitation of mobile phones. There's a way to do it. Nothing ever completely gets erased. And the phone that they got reportedly is the one he had during COVID. You can't believe what should be in that phone. I hope they're doing it the right way, keeping a log, because God knows what they're going to find in that phone.
Just going back and just, you know, reading the words of this text and the questions that Dr. Fauci did indeed have over pregnancy and the timing of these vaccines, he was questioning specifically about a fever after a second dose and a theoretical risk of miscarriage during the first trimester. This is what these text messages are revealing. At the same time, publicly was saying that they didn't see any red flags or any need to delay getting that dose beyond the first trimester. I mean, you just think about the reaction so many people could be having in this country to this right now.
I want to be clear. I'm not defending him. Actually, I have been one of his principal antagonists, both on my own website, the Ops Desk, on things that I've written for various publications, and on the air. I've never trusted some of the stuff that was coming out of him. And let's remember something. He wasn't the head of the CDC. He went off on his own. The media created him, and all of a sudden he became the face of it, and he wanted to. He dug his own grave here. But don't we as a nation want to get our truth here relative to the fact that this was, at the very least, an inadvertent release of a deadly virus that we very well may have partially funded.
Hey, Paul, we got to jump in on you here.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.